Good afternoon, everybody. This is Markwayne Mullin. Appreciate you taking the time to participate with us. I am in Washington, D.C. still. Hopefully I'll get home this week. Just want to tell you real quick about some updates that are going on in D.C., and then we want to open it up for phone calls too. So if you got a question for us, to get in the queue, you press *3. That's *3 to get in the queue to ask questions. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this call. It's so exciting to be here right now. It seems like the last 4 years I was almost spinning my wheels. It was just trying to catch the next surprise that was coming out of the White House. Now we have an administration that is working with us. We have an administration that's visiting with us. It seems like they're trying to move in the same direction by getting this country back on track, by shrinking the size of the federal government, getting out of our way and allowing the entrepreneurs, allowing the individuals to understand what their rights are and get this economy moving again. It was real neat today. I was in a conference, a lunch/conference, and unexpectedly, Mike Pence, our vice president, showed up, and he walked in to our surprise, because I can tell you the last 4 years you never saw Joe Biden or President Obama in the Capitol. In the last 4 weeks, I've seen more of our vice president, Mike Pence, and our President Trump in the Capitol than I did the previous 4 years, and so it's really exciting. But what was neat about it is when the vice president came in, the first thing he did is he prayed for us all, and then he talked about after they had pushed out the nomination of our hopefully our new justice, or will be our new justice, Gorsuch, that the vice president, the president of the United States, President Trump, and the spouse of Justice Gorsuch and himself, Gorsuch himself, got together, the four of them, and prayed. And Mike Pence said that the president looked at him and asked him to pray for him. If we have a country that is being led by leaders that seek Christ each day, that excites me. Not to mention that we have a president that has been a CEO of a company. He understands the role of the government and the limited role that they should have. And so it's very exciting to be here at this time, if you can tell by the excitement in my voice. But we're also going to be able to get the country moving in the right direction. So *3, if you got a question for us. I want to talk to you before we get to the cues, what's happening. Of course, the number one priority in Congress is to roll back the regulations that President Obama has put into place, and one of those is, and the very top one of that is obviously rolling back Obamacare. We're aggressively going after that. I sit on the subcommittee that is tasked with that. I'm on energy and power, and my subcommittee, one of my subcommittees, is health, which Obamacare goes through. The two areas that I've been tasked with: one, I'm helping with the Medicaid reform package, and then the Indian Health Care Improvement Act. Both of those are areas that our office is tied with, but there's other areas of Obamacare that we've got to repeal and replace. You're also going to be hearing a lot of stuff of late, and you've been probably hearing about them already. There's CRAs, and essentially what a CRA is it gets, because of the Congressional Review Act that was passed in 1996, it essentially gives Congress to take a look at 60 days past of regulations that was created by the outgoing administration. So it gives us 60 days for the midnight. A lot of you guys have heard about the midnight regulations, or the heavy-handed amount of regulations that comes out of outgoing administrations. Because of the Congressional Review Act, it gives us time to go back in 60 days and essentially disapprove those. So we have been working very hard, working almost around the clock with these CRAs. I have one that specifically deals with the EPA. Anybody that knows me knows that they're not an agency that I care much for. Fortunately, we're going to have our Attorney General, Scott Pruitt, that's going to be directing that. I think him and I see eye to eye when it comes to the role of the EPA and the overreach that they had. So the CRA, you're going to be hearing a continuous amount of those pumping out until we run out of our 60-day window. Then once we get to there, you're going to be hearing about two budgets that we have to run at the same time. We are currently working in our fiscal year of 2017, but we never finished that budget completely, so we have to do the FY17 and FY18, or fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 17 at the same time. So you're going to start hearing a lot of noise about the budget moving forward, but we are working every day on repealing Obamacare, and we can't wait till that happens. *3 if you got a question for us. We're going to get to the phones right off the bat. Let's talk to Sherry Deer, I think. Sherry, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, thank you. Where are you from, Sherry?
I live in Summerfield.
Well, thank you. Did you call in or did we call you?
I called in.
Well, thank you for taking the time to call in. What kind of question you have?
I'm calling to express my concern over the Tallahassee Veterans Center being targeted for closure.
Okay. Specifically, what's your concern with it? And I mean, obviously, the whole closure part of it, but do you have a specific question on it?
My specific question is, what are you going to do about it? Frank Simpson, a Republican from Ardmore, has targeted our facility for closure. Well, our facility is pretty much up to par with every other VA facility in the state.
Well, I am obviously for keeping the center open. Frank
I would hope so.
Yeah, Frank obviously works at the state, and I haven't had an opportunity to visit with him. I do visit with the VA and the director of the VA on a quite regular basis of what's happening. Obviously, in there we've had several incidences of late that have raised concerns. The biggest concern that the VA has with it is it has nothing to do with the facility, not the maintenance of the facility or the age of the facility. The problem that they have is recruiting medical help with nurses, with physician assistants, with doctors, and they said it's extremely difficult for them to get people that want to move to Tallahassee. And that's their biggest problem, is trying to recruit help that even wants to go there. And we're trying to work with that. The VA is trying to work with that. I can't control what the state is doing, but we are up here in Washington, D.C., not going after the center. It'll be extremely costly to build a new center, and especially if a center that has the capability that center does. And then obviously the improvements that have been made to that one, plus the continuous improvements that are being made, what would you do with that facility? And so, but at the same time, if we can't get the help needed to provide the service for the veterans, then the number one purpose of that facility is to provide care for the veterans. And if we can't get people to move there, if we can't get the help that we need, then that's going to be problematic going down the road, because if you can't get help, you can't keep the doors open. And that is a constant fight there. And I don't know if there's a good solution for that, but we're working on that. Most of the people that work there, I was told, are driving between 30 to 40 miles one way to get to work each day. And they have concerns with that too. And so I'm very aware of it, but as far as what's happening at the state capitol, that's running a completely different track than what we're doing up here.
I just want to know that you would help protect the center, basically, because it is for the benefit of the community as well as the veterans.
I 100% agree. Like I said, the only concern that I have with it, though, is the fact that they're having a hard time recruiting help and recruiting doctors. And I have went over their employment shortfalls, and it is staggering. And if the community could help us with that, Sherry, that'd be great. We'd love to have the community step up and try helping with that too. But that means there's going to have to come up a lot of nurses and a lot of doctors from that area, because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to move to Tallahena. And I'm not being negative towards Tallahena because it's a beautiful area and I live in an extremely rural spot. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to live in the rural parts of the country. But I don't guess that's the way everybody looks at it around the world.
Right. Apparently what was published in the Poto paper about the statistics for the surrounding state of Oklahoma and the other VA centers, we are as staffed in Tallahena as many of the other facilities.
Yeah, the issue that we're having, according to them, like I said, to the meetings that I've had with them, is with doctors and keeping doctors there on staff. Not just with nurses, but nurses is a problem too. And when you're losing the certain requirements that they have to have, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but it is alarming. And but at the same time, that just this period of time doesn't cause the center to need to be closed.
No, it does not.
But we're going to do what we can to try working with it to keep it open there, Sherry, okay?
That's good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Let's go to Joe. Joe, you got a question for us? Hello, Joe?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Okay.
Where are you from, Joe?
I'm in the healthcare profession, used to own my own pharmacy, and I have dealt with 340B pricing.
Right.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir, I am.
That is the same thing with the VAs, Indians, and the military purchase, you know. Well, you take a product like insulin. Levemir is the particular product there. You can buy package of it. You can buy three packages for like less than 50 cents. On 340B, it costs over $400 for the retail pharmacy to purchase it. Now, I don't know whether 50 cents is the right price or $400 is the right price, but somewhere in between should be the correct price.
Right. Well, I can tell you. Yeah, Joe, okay. I can tell you. Hey, where are you from, Joe?
I live in Chicago right now. I have a store in Chicago.
Well, Joe, I can tell you we're looking at this in our health subcommittee. In fact, Buddy Carter from Georgia, he's a pharmacist. He's also a congressman now. He came in 2 years ago. He understands this issue extremely well and is talking on it. But there's several people. It's not just the pharmacists. It's the pharmaceutical companies that had to get together, and then we got to be able to have a conversation about medication and the pricing of it as a whole. So we're trying. Go ahead.
If you don't do anything with tort reform, then for the new health care bill,
right,
there's not any sense in doing it.
Well, the good thing is everything that is on the table right now, and the idea is to make it better and more accessible. And by more accessible means pricing, and we're seeing pricing through healthcare as a whole, not just in medication, but in care itself, going through the roof. And a lot of times that has to do with the role that the federal government is playing in it, and the manipulation that they can have in some of these areas by having mandates, and those mandates, which are supposed to protect a certain group of people, is causing the prices to go up in other areas. Mm-hmm. And those mandates are the ones that we've got to look at. My feeling is we need less involvement in private sectors and allow that competition to drive the pricing. Being in a competitive market is what will keep the pricing in line with what the consumer is willing to pay.
But that's not altogether true there, because the Crown colonies are buying medication. Let's say, as an example, of if the medication should cost $100, just use that as an example, they're paying like $80, And then the pharmaceutical companies are coming back and charging the Americans $120 to offset that $20 breakdown that they're giving the Crown colonies.
There is a small area,
That's
Joe.
Okay,
Joe. There's a small area to where that is happening. That's not happening broadly across the board, but there is a small area where that's happening. And the reason why it's more expensive to deliver drugs here inside the United States, by drugs meaning medication, prescription medication. The reason why it's more expensive here is because of our regulations through the FDA and how long it takes to bring a product to the market. It only takes about 6 years, 4 to 6 years to bring a drug to the market in Europe. It's taking 10 to 12 years with roughly a 90% failure rate before they even get to the market. The price and the length of time between when you double the price of bringing it to the market and the clinical studies that require you to do drive our prices up. And we all want to deliver a safe product, but the more regulations and the more mandates we put on these people, it's going to continue to drive our prices. That's why we need to pull back the federal government. I mean, yes, we want to protect the health and safety of the consumer. That role should always be there. But there's a faster way to be able to bring stuff to the market and still protect the public's health. So I get what you're saying, Joe, and we definitely are on the same page on that. Joe, I'm sorry, but I've got to get to some other callers. All right?
I understand.
Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate your call. Let's go to I'm trying to figure out which one we're going to go to here. Let's go to Roxy. Roxy, you got a question for me?
Yes. To me, the most frightening thing about this entire election cycle has been the deep, deep division in our country. It's deeply frightening. And I realize you are only responsible for yourself. You're not responsible for what comes out of anyone else's mouth. But especially frightening are the things that are coming out of the White House now, playing on people's ignorance of the system and how the Constitution works, and undermining confidence in the press, undermining confidence in the court system, and I find that very, very troubling. How do you, as an individual and as a member of the majority party, intend to help heal that divide? Because all of these other things we're discussing, I think, are far, far second in importance to that question.
Roxy, I'll just tell you, I don't think the majority party, which is the Republican Party, is the one driving this divide. It's the party that left office that's driving this divide. You ought to see the protest.
I realize that. I didn't ask who. And I'm a Republican. I didn't say who's causing it. I'm asking, how are we going to help? You when you try to sit down, you have a conversation with someone, and there's no point or there's no place of reason, then it's very hard to have a logic conversation to be able to get started. There was frustration and anger that started way before President Trump got into office, and what he says, you can like it or not like it, but people wanted someone that wasn't going to be politically correct, and they got someone there. And I understand that. I understand this. I'm talking about moving forward. How can we?
Well, I understand that, but moving forward,
not looking backwards, but moving forward.
Give me something that I don't understand this, Roxanne. But give me something specifically that you're saying that he said that caused the divide.
Well, calling a so-called judge, that's pretty frightening when you start talking about judges and calling them so-called judges. That's just a recent one.
Well, I
realize you're not responsible for what he says. I'm asking what the Republicans are going to do to help heal the problem.
Well, this is what I'm going to say. We can be as loving and kind and friendly to individuals if we want to. But when people aren't wanting to even have a conversation, people talking about him calling out a judge because a judge ruled against his decision to try putting American citizens first, and he didn't ban people from coming here. He banned 7 countries that have terrorist activities, or are known that have terrorists that are trying to infiltrate the United States because of the intelligence briefings that are received.
Probably everyone who's on this call has heard.
So you have a judge. you have a judge that didn't agree with his opinion. And what he did is he called the judge out, but he also appealed to a different court. Let me see. I can think of 5 cases right now that happened the same way with the Obama administration. Now, what did he say that divided?
About the past.
I know, but what I'm getting to, Roxanne, is Roxanne, I'm really trying to explain it to you, and I'm doing my best to try visiting with you about it, but at the same time, what I'm trying to explain is, you say, what are we doing about it? I guess what I need to say is, what have we done that's caused it? Other than won the election, what have we done to cause it? We're not out there calling people names. As a Republican Party, we're not out there trying to stir the pot. We're not trying to throw fuel on the flames. What we're trying to do is say, guys, we're trying to put this country first. Put this country first. Before anything else, we're trying to put this country first. And when someone doesn't agree with his opinion, he has the right to express it. The president has the right to express it and appeal it to a higher court. And that's exactly what's happening right now, and that's exactly what the other president did. But he doesn't have the right to say that he doesn't agree with the judge.
There are ways. Well, okay.
I know there's more tactful ways to say it. I'm not saying there's not more tactful ways.
I'm not talking about tact. I'm talking about people who don't really understand the separation of church and state. They don't understand freedom of the press. They don't understand how fundamental these things are to our country. And I'm not holding you responsible for what he says. I'm just saying that part of this tendency of you guys to immediately jump in and blame the Democrats, that's part of the problem. We don't want to hear you blaming the Democrats. We want to hear you say, what are you going to do now?
We're trying to do that, but at the same time, we're also getting a lot of rhetoric from the other side. I want you to understand that everything that you're seeing on news and reading on social media, it is one-sided and it is very biased. And if you want to talk about freedom of the press, Roxanne, then they should also be the press. But they don't. They have an agenda that they push out there. And I, for one, am very thankful that Obama's out of the office and that Trump is calling it the way that it is. And I don't think he's doing more to divide it. There is an active group of people that are well-funded that are purposely stirring this up, and they're extremely violent, and I have zero respect for them on their protest. I have pictures on my phone where they have protested us, where they've been all over the place, and I can't even show them to my kids because of how vulgar the signs are and the stuff that they say. And the press will cover those kind of marches all day long, and then you have a pro-life movement here that has hundreds of thousands of people and participants, and there's a blur on the screen. It doesn't even show everything that's happening. There is no equal or press and the freedom of press when they're not willing to report actual news. And I don't think for a second that we're doing something to cause it or to fan the flames. And I respect what you're saying by saying, what are we doing trying to heal it? What we're trying to do is be consistent. And we're not trying to do anything out of ordinary. We're not calling names. We're not trying to be out there and be a bully pulpit. We're trying to just simply put the country first, and I can't understand why people would argue with that. But, Roxanne, I do appreciate your time. I've got to get to some other callers, but thank you so much for being involved. *3 if you got a question for us. If you want to be part of the queue, is *3. Of course, the purpose of this call is for us to give you an update of what's going on and answer your questions. There is a lot of a lot of tension that's running from one side of the party, and there's a lot of confusion that what's happening up here. But the thing that I want to make sure people understand is that our number one goal is to put this country back on track and to put our citizens first. And that is a concern that we have. It's not that we don't want to have an open dialogue with individuals, because we do. But it is very frustrating when you set into a meeting and you're trying to have a meeting about Medicaid and closing loopholes that is costing taxpayers and states millions and millions of dollars, and where the opposite side wants to go is say that you're trying to kill people because you're trying to reform Medicaid. And honestly telling you, I've had them tell me that I'm trying to kill people. That is the most absurd thing that I've ever heard. And I don't understand where it is that they're trying to go when we're trying to put our constituents and the American people first. So if you got a question for us, *3. Let's get to the phones real quick. I have Chris. You there?
Yes, sir.
Where are you from, Chris?
I live in Catoosa, but we've got a place in Wagner. We have a marina outside of Wagner.
An indoor arena or outdoor arena?
Marina.
Oh, marina. Okay. I thought you said arena. I was like, you guys rodeo? Let's have that conversation.
No. I know you're working. Number one, I appreciate the call. You all called me. I appreciate the opportunity. The reason I came on the queue, the reason I want to talk to you is, at our marina, we've been trying for 5 years to put in something as simple as a toilet. It sounds like it should be a somewhat simple process. It's not. The EPA has put in regulations.
Right.
Zone 1, Zone 2, within 400 yards of the water, within 800 yards of the water, that trickles down to the ODQ and becomes policy. So 15 years ago, let's say, when 2004, when we bought the marina, I would have been able to put in a lateral line tank septic system. About 4 years ago, somewhere in that time frame, they changed, well, a little bit further back than that, they changed policies where I would have had to have done an aerobic system. Today, I can't do either system, or that's what I've been told by the DEQ. My only option then becomes the lagoon, which I don't want. But more importantly, I can only be licensed to operate a single lagoon. We're seasonal. We operate in the summertime. That's when we get most of our water volume, 90%. In the wintertime, we get none. If my lagoon is sized incorrectly, I'll have to fill it in. But I can't really expand it once it's been sized.
Right.
And on top of that, if I want to add 10 cabins 10 years from now, if I want to add something else, I can't put a second cell in. The regulations prevent me from doing that unless I've got a licensed operator doing it. So the people don't understand, and I could go through a litany of regulations that impact us. I mean, we have to do a line pressure test on our gas lines every year that costs $400. I don't make $400 on my gas, but I got to do a pressure test, much less maintenance or anything else. We have new rules that are coming out seems like every day. New rule this year, before I start up I have a seasonal water system. Our water comes in from the rural water district number 2, Wagner, and it probably travels a maximum 400 yards. But I am a water provider. I don't buy water wholesale or by bulk. I have to pay the district just like everybody else does. But then I have to test the water 200 yards past where they gave it to me, because I serve a certain number of people. Again, just over-regulation. But the one I need help with is showers and toilets. And I've been fighting this for 5 years, and you just can't get past them.
Yeah, I'll probably have my office call you. I'm trying to see if we have your phone number here. Yeah, we have your phone number here. I'll have my office call you, and we will probably have to open up a casework on you. I do know about this issue very well because of the life I had before office, and so I'm very familiar with the DEQ and the EPA regulations. Right now, what they're requiring a lot of those marinas to do, because my company I know
who you are.
Yeah, well, it serviced and worked and did all this stuff. And right now we're end up having to put in holding tanks, and on some of these places come in and pump them on a every other day to weekly ordeal, and that gets so expensive you can't hardly afford to do it.
And will stay cheaper, and we'll get less business and less access to the lakes.
Yes, absolutely, and so. You're going to see some of these regulations peeled back because these are all in series to different regs that the EPA has pushed forward. I will say that the Trump administration has put out that they want a 2-for-1. For every one new regulation that is put out, they want 2 repealed. And then through the CRA, some of these regulations that are coming through we can undo with the CRA. This isn't going to be an easy fix, but sometimes we can get clarification when you're getting a runaround between EPA and DEQ, which is Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. I know you're aware of that, but just for our listeners. And because even though they'll refer to ODEQ will actually have to get approval through the EPA, and that's what role we can play in and get clarification and say what exactly can we do and what reg are you specifically quoting, and see if it's still in play. So let us start a casework. I'll have my office give you a call, and we'll move from there. Does that work?
Yeah, and while I got you on the line, just two last comments real quick. Tort reform that Joe was talking about. Anytime you're watching TV and every third commercial is a lawsuit case, malpractice case, we've got a problem. And the only way to reduce the cost, not only the actual cost of litigation and the insurance, but also the cost of the defensive medical practices that the doctors are having to do, which increases all of our pricing, is to get tort reform in place. And, why we didn't do that 8 years ago, I don't understand. I mean, but we still haven't done it. And, unless you do something with that, you're going to kill yourselves. And keep fighting the slanted bias media. I like it.
Right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. We got a poll question for you. Of course, we have all of us have a lot of concerns, so we want our audience to be able to participate. One thing I'd like to ask you is, what is the number one issue that concerns you the most at the federal level? The number one issue that concerns you the most at the federal level. Press 2 for health care. Press 4, national security. Press 6 for tax reform. Press 7 for regulatory reform. That's 2 for health care, 4 for national security, 6 for tax reform, and 7 for regulatory reform. Let's get on to the calls. If you got a question for us, star 3. If you want to be part of the queue, star 3. Let's go to Barbara. Barbara, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, and thank you very much for taking the call.
Oh, thank you. Where are you from, Barbara?
Hodgen, Oklahoma, big city.
That's a huge city. That's
yes.
I think that's actually smaller than Westville.
We're probably close to getting 300 people in the area I live in.
Yeah, boy, that's major metropolitan area. That's right.
Yes, up and coming.
How can I help you?
You're a country boy too, so we can relate.
Yes, ma'am, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm real interested in the regulations area, which you've talked a great deal about, and I appreciate all your comments on that. One of the directives that our new president has put out concerned me, though, and it was in the coal industry. There's a product of ash that's left over after they do whatever they're going to do with it.
Right.
And the way I understood it is that now can be, I guess he may have to do some other things with our legislators before this becomes actually things they can do, but at any rate, it's moving that way. And they can now dump it anywhere they want to, and that's what I understood anyway. And that I'm concerned because it would be maybe close to the waterways, and that even though it's not dumped into it, it certainly could get into it. We've experienced that in this area with our chicken litter. And even though they're using it as fertilizer, it all ends up in a river possibly because of the way it goes.
Yeah, let me put your mind at ease. Fly ash is nothing like that. Fly ash was something that was deemed hazardous by the EPA. The fly ash is a product that's used. It's literally ash after the power plants get done burning it, and it's a product that they used to give away. Literally, my company we would pump grease, and when we would pump the grease, we would get fly ash and we would mix it with the grease, and literally I mixed tons and tons and tons and tons of this stuff. And we would haul it to the landfill, and the landfill loved it because they would use it to cover up trash, and it was a good product. When the EPA came in here and deemed it a toxic material, there's no evidence, there's no reason why they did it other than they were trying to get rid of coal. If you make it where it's so expensive to burn coal, then obviously you have to stop using coal. And they had a war on coal, and the president made it very clear that he had a war on coal. But since they were getting fought so hard about shutting down the coal mines, they went to the byproduct. And if you can't get rid of the byproduct, then you can't burn the product itself. And that's why they attacked fly ash. But there is many applications for fly ash. And it's not a hazardous material. They're not going to go dump it in the river. I can assure you they never had a problem getting rid of it before because they use it for all types of stuff. It absorbed moisture really well too. So they used it to in boggy areas, in swamp areas, to clean up certain spills because it absorbed well. The fly ash has many applications, but you got where you couldn't handle it. So I'm not sure where you heard that they were going to go dump it into the rivers and all this stuff, and they could dump it anywhere. What he did, and my understanding is what they did is they basically repealed the executive order that Obama had put out on fly ash, and reclassified it to where it should have been classified to begin with.
Well, I guess I kind of assumed it was more like what we experienced in this area with our
litter.
When it's put on the land or put anywhere, it doesn't necessarily have to go into the water, but it will end up there.
Yeah, it's completely different like that. This is like a sandy product. It's the best way I can describe it. It's not even ash like you would get out of your fireplace. I mean, this would be equivalent to sand. It would be. I mean, honestly, that's about the best product I can describe to. Except it's finer than sand. It's like a mixture between sand and baby powder. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I thank you for that. Can I follow up on the coal industry since you seem very knowledgeable about that?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just wondering why we know coal is necessary right now, probably to keep going on, but in the future, we've got some better things going on through technology and the research to provide energy. So with the people that are losing jobs because we're not mining coal in that particular area of the United States where it was big and everybody depended on it for jobs, does anybody ever think about there could be some retraining done for those folks so that we start giving them another tool in their pocket besides having to go down into mines when we know that machines are going to be very important in the future, that everything people are not going to have the same kind of jobs that they've had in the past.
Right.
So we're going to have to start looking at retraining a lot of people, and that's not something today, but we've got to look at the future. So have you been discussing that at all with your cohorts there in Washington?
We discuss this all the time, and we're not picking one industry over the next. We're all the above approach. But coal we have an abundant amount of coal inside the United States. It is a very reliable and consistent form of energy, especially when we start talking about our electricity and how we produce electricity. Of course, we have wind, and of course we have solar, and of course we have natural gas, and all of them have to compete with each other. And the most affordable one is obviously the one that's going to win out. But there's no reason for us to eliminate coal because coal has done a phenomenal job on with the technology of cleaning, of having a more clean burn, a more efficient way of using the products, and so yes, there's more technology out there. But I don't think we're to the point where we need to be looking at getting rid of the industry itself because it is a thing that gives us an upper hand to most countries because of the reliable source we have with producing our electricity. But I need to get to some other calls, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the call with us. Let's go to Garland. Garland, you got a question for us?
Yes, sir, I do. And thanks for call. You actually called me, and I appreciate that. My question is, we have, as livestock producers and farmers, which is a large majority of Oklahomans are, we have the Humane Society of the United States and PETA and others that are trying, or actually forcing their agenda upon us, which makes it harder for us to make a living. And they have lobbyists there in Washington that are giving millions of dollars away to get what they want accomplished done. I just wonder what your opinion is on that and how we can stop that.
Humane Society is no friend of mine whatsoever. In fact, they're starting to come after me of late, and so I can completely tell you they lobby hard up here, but we're pushing back on them, and I think we win the fight in the long run. But what they're trying to do, in essentially, and look, I live on a ranch, and I always have. I understand animals and care deeply for them. And I mean, my kids have dogs, and you know, we have a lot of horses, and the hardest thing in the world to do is when you lose one. But also, I doubt very many people have spent much more time than me, especially those that work in the Humane Society, of taking care of a calf that was born during an ice storm or snow or bad weather, or one that's sick and ill, and you got a doctor and got to force it to the mother to take care of it, or a colt that is difficult and having a hard time, and no one understands what a colt really is like unless you've been kicked by one. And the Humane Society thinks that all horses are born in a stall and someone's already cleaning up their stall for them, and they're already broke and they're pretty and they look so cute. They don't understand the nights that you have to spend in calves, or the time when you got to go get them out because they went through the field and you got to get them back into a different field, or horse that got into the feed because, you know, unfortunately a kid makes a mistake and leaves the feed door open and almost foundered, and you got to spend hours upon hours walking them, or the unfortunate time when you got to put one down. I mean, I had an experience recently where I had to put my son's horse down, and that's a hard thing to do, but they're still animals. And their rights shouldn't go above human rights. And at the end of the day, the Humane Society has it, in my opinion, quite backwards. And I don't know exactly why they're lobbying so hard on certain things, but I do not support what they're trying to do and the way that they're trying to come on our farms and try to regulate the way that we live our life. And so I will not be supporting them, and they are no friends of mine.
Well, I appreciate it, Congressman, and thanks for the call.
Absolutely, Garland.
It's just a wonderful deal to be able to listen to this. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the call with us. Let's go to Carla. Carla, you there?
Yes, I am.
How can I help you, Carla? Yes, where are you from?
Okay. I'm from Valiant, the
hey.
stinky town from the paper mill.
No, it smells like money. You go through that town, it smells just like money. That's what that smells like. And Eddie Dempsey, that lives right across the place from it pretty much.
Yeah, I know Eddie. I went to school with Eddie.
So he talks about how great of an athlete he was and how all the girls used to chase him around town. Is that true?
Well, I was several years younger. So he was, I was probably a sophomore and he was a senior.
Oh.
So, I mean, he wasn't, paying attention to me, that's for sure.
No, Eddie's a good friend of mine. And he's not just my field rep, but he's a good friend of mine. So how can I help you, Carla?
First thing, we're talking about the EPA. What worries me is that a lot of people in our area are coming down with cancer. My mom being just one of them. I've had cancer myself twice. And, if we're doing away with the EPA, who's going to regulate these factories and mills and stuff to keep from putting out all these pollutants that cause cancer?
Well, we don't know that all the pollutants are what's causing the cancer. In fact, the EPA doesn't very seldom ever even talk about the cancer. They talk about the ozone and our drinking water and the environment, which I don't think anybody would take care of their place and take more pride on their place than those that live right there. I don't need people in Washington D.C. that's surrounded by concrete to come tell me how to take care of my creek in front of my house. But as far as the cancer itself, look, we're first of all, congratulations on being a survivor. It's a very hard fight.
I'm not yet. I've only been a survivor once.
Well, you survived once, and I believe you're going to do it again. But there is a need for regulation. I get that. And we need to be testing the products, and we need to be making sure the product that's coming out is a safe product. And we need to do a lot of research on trying to figure out how to cure cancer and how to be specific on the targets of the cancer. But the EPA itself, when you have an agency that overreaches and takes no consideration of the economic impact, the jobs it's going to cost, or the individuals, and they're more about agenda-driven, that they want to pick winners and losers because they don't like one industry and they're going to go after another industry, then you have someone that's lost focus of protecting the health and safety of others. That's at the end of the day, that's what these agencies are supposed to do, protect the health and safety of others. But when they grow too big and they try to make themselves to justify their jobs, then I have a big issue with them. And so why we haven't nailed down what is causing cancer, there's people that are still looking at it. But I believe at the end of the day, it won't be the government that'll figure out the solution to that. It'll be the private industry. It'll take extremely smart individuals that'll eventually come up with the solution and the cause. And I believe that's where it's going to come from. But at the same time, we have the federal government that's standing in their way to be able to find those products. And so I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I don't think the EPA is ever going to do that. But there's the Department of Environmental Quality in Oklahoma is supposed to regulate that. And that's what the Constitution says, that the states have the right to regulate themselves unless they're unwilling or unable to do so. And I haven't seen a state that's unwilling and unable to do so right now. But the federal government keeps imposing them. And so we don't need the EPA when we have the DEQ because that's what the Constitution says.
Okay, another concern of mine is the budget. And, I look at how, and this is no disrespect for you or any of the other Congress members, but y'all are getting lifetime pay and benefits. Is there not a way we can cut some of that down to help balance the budget? Because
I wish that was true, but that is absolutely not true.
I've never had a job that paid me when I was no longer working there. In fact, I'm still fighting for my
neither
my
does this job,
Security.
Carla. Neither does this job. That's absolutely that's been going around the internet for so long. I can assure you that is absolutely not true. In fact, I still provide my own health care. And I do have a retirement, but my retirement, I'm only fully invested after I've been here 20 years, like most people. I'm treated no different than anybody else. There is no such thing as full benefits, your first term or your second term or your third term. We're treated like most federal employees. You have to invest the time to be able to be there. And the investment time doesn't even start until you've been here for, I think, over 5 years. Then a percentage kicks in after 5 years, but you're only eligible to receive it once you get to, I believe, I don't know, I haven't even looked at it, but I think it's somewhere around Social Security age. And then after you've been here 20 years, before you can draw your pay, I think it's age 57 if you get fully invested. And fully invested, I believe, is just 70 or 80%. I'm not exactly what it is of your retirement age. So that stuff about being fully paid, fully benefit, that is absolutely not true. And yes, we still have to pay Social Security. But I kid you not.
My problem with Social Security is since this last cancer, I am extremely disabled. and I'm unable to work. And Eddie has helped me with this,
Good.
and it went nowhere. And I am like,
let's look at it.
We've been fighting this since 2011.
Right.
And, I mean, I'm kind of getting tired. In fact,
well,
I have
don't
a hearing
give up.
next week. I have a hearing next week, and, it just, I'm kind of tired of having to fight for my own money.
Right. And I hate this.
That is my money,
Carla, and it is, and I hate this, and we'll continue to fight on this. Eddie just sent me a text message so that he'll contact you on.
He's listening.
Yeah, but he also said, "Yes, I'm still a stud." That's exactly what the text said there.
Oh, that's all it is. I didn't recognize him when I moved back down here. I had to move. I was living in
I think that's because
working.
I can say this because he's a. Carl, I can say this because he's a friend of mine. I think that's because he gained a little weight. Just saying.
That happens with age. That
and the love of steak. Hey, I appreciate the call, but Eddie will circle back with you this week. Okay.
Well,
all right.
He's
Thank
more
you
than
so
welcome
much.
to come to the hearing with me. So.
All right.
Okay,
I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Bye. We've got time for a few more calls. Let's go to I'm trying to figure out where you want to go. Let's go to Dawn. Hello, Dawn, you there?
Yes, sir.
How can I help you?
Yes, sir. We are employees of the McAllister Ammunition Plant.
Yeah, I met with some people today in my DC office on this.
Yes, sir. That's kind of what the little lady was saying.
Right.
But, I'm sure it's probably the same stuff that we have concerns about the hiring freeze and getting some clarity on.
Right.
Because they're ramping up our workforce or our workload, but we're not getting the workforce so we can produce the job. And so it was kind of a catch-22 with it because we're getting pushed to produce it all, but we don't have minimal, we got skeleton crews now.
Right. Well, Dawn, for our listeners, what this is the ammunition plant in McAllister, and what a lot of people don't realize is that there's only, even though it's considered a base, it is essentially has one uniformed individual, and that's the colonel. Everybody else that works there are civilians. And the president's executive order that he put out with a hiring freeze, a federal employee hiring freeze, except essential employees, and it didn't include our men and women in uniform. It left our civilian workers that work on our bases, including Tinker and other bases around the country, in limbo and needed clarification. So I've been working very close to Senator Inhofe on this. In fact, we was meeting with the incoming OMB, which is Mick Mulvaney, to help with clarification on this. We understand the OMB office has already gave a clarification to the base, and we're working right now to try to clarify that of why they're still doing this. So we were on the phone with the DOD today at the Pentagon. We think we might have come up with a solution, but I can tell you that Senator Inhofe and myself have worked very closely on this issue because you guys have a mission to do, and we already know that you're roughly 200 employees behind already because it takes roughly 100 days to get somebody hired out there. But at the same time, we're actually needing to hire more employees because we're getting behind on the mission. And I know there's a lot of pride out there at the ammunition plant. And so we're working on it. We're doing what we can to try to get clarification on it. The problem is that there's a lot of vacancies right now, and the government's big, and we're trying to get to the answer. But I think we might have came up with something today. All right.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate it.
Hey, Dawn, thank you, and thanks for the work you do out there. It's vital to our men and women in uniform. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's go. Let's go to Jenny, or is it Jenna? Janine. Let's go to Janine. I'm sorry. Janine, you there?
Oh, it's Jeannie.
Jeannie?
Yeah.
We were all wrong. I'm so sorry. Where are you from?
Owasso, Oklahoma.
Oh, well, glad to have you on the call.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, my concern is this. First of all, I'm really excited and happy with President Trump and our Vice President Mike Pence and the things that they're moving quickly on to get accomplished, and just couldn't be happier with the progress that we're seeing every day up there. It's just incredible.
It's so exciting
yeah.
I love being home. I love being with my wife and kids, but if I'm going to be up here, I want to see progress. In the last 4 years, it's been very tough to see progress. It's very exciting to be up here right now, and you're seeing progress every day. Now, it's small slices, but I was always told my managers and my officers that work in our companies that if you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. We continue to do this. This is how we get things moving back in the right direction.
Exactly. My big concern is my husband and I are really hurting. Our health insurance premiums more than doubled this last year from 2016 to 2017. We were paying about $800 a month for the two of us to have health insurance. And then we got a letter that said, come 2017, you'll be paying $1,765 per month, $1,765 a month. That's probably almost 30% of our income, right there, what we have to spend a month, and that's just on health insurance, and that's a bronze plan, and that's a $5,000 deductible per person.
Right.
And it's just help. We're suffering. How soon are we going to see relief from this confiscatory? I don't know what else to call it. confiscatory, unfair health care premium that we're having to pay. It's not right.
This is so frustrating to me. When I first started business, Christy and I first started business back in September of '97. We provided insurance for our very first employee, and it was $78 a month, which I thought was high back then, by the way. And it was a $250 deductible with a $25 copay, and I think it was like $5 to $25 on prescriptions. That doesn't even exist now. Now our employees have a $5,000 deductible, an 80/20 plan, and it's like $600+ a month. And it's killing us. I mean, and that's not even including families, because we provide options there for families too. And so what you're saying, I totally get. I understand it completely, and it's rough, and it's very difficult. As far as when the premiums come down, it's going to take a while. We have 7 years underneath Obamacare. And the markets have dried up. Right now, you only have one carrier that's on the exchange that's left in the Obamacare, and that's Blue Cross Blue Shields. And no fault at them, but they've had to raise their rate since 2017, or by 2014, it's 133%. Last year alone, you saw a 76% increase. The costs are continuing to skyrocket, and the only way we're going to bring those down is we got to create the atmosphere for insurers to come back into the market. That isn't going to happen overnight. There isn't one magic wand or one magic bill that we can pass that's going to drive those premiums down. That's going to take some time of us creating a consumer-friendly environment for the insurance markets to want to come back in, for competition to be back there with the doctors, with the hospitals, the care providers that can work together collectively, and we're bringing them in on a very regular basis to try making that happen. But I think it's going to be a few years before we see the premiums come down, because there's two things. The premiums are going to have to come down, and I guess the inflation that has happened with Obamacare is going to have to balance out, and then our income is going to have to rise, and at some point they're going to have to meet, and that could take years for that to happen because the inflation happened so quick through the medical industry. I know that's not what you're wanting to hear, but it started November 8th of undoing this failed policy by Obamacare. But because of 7 years that it's been inside the market, it's going to take several years to unwind it. And I would love to give you better news than that, but that's what happens when we allow the federal government to get involved in things. It seems like they just mess things up. Our whole goal is to make this government smaller, not continue to be a big brother that we always got to ask permission for, because when they do, they hurt people like you on this.
So I'm under a false assumption that by repealing Obamacare, that my health insurance would become less expensive.
No, it will eventually, but it's not going to do it the first day we repeal it, because there's still nobody in the market. There's still no stability in the market. Obamacare pushed a lot of insurers out of the market. And when they did that, the providers that was there, because of the mandates and the regulations that was put on them, they had to raise prices to be able to offset the expense that Obamacare was causing them. Once we bring out those mandates and once we repeal Obamacare, that market will start coming alive again, but it's not going to drop premiums day one. It will eventually drop them, but it's going to take some time to get there. And I could sell you a whole load of how happy and everything's going to be. I'm just trying to be realistic with you.
When are we going to see insurance companies be able to sell insurance policies across state lines with health care like they do with automobile insurance?
That's one thing that we're trying to get done right now. We are working on that right now, and we seem like that's one piece. That's several pieces that will happen. So we're working on it. I hate to cut you short because I'd love to have a longer conversation, but we are out of time. I want to thank everybody for attending. We had over 4,300 participants in this call. We didn't get to all the phone calls, and I apologize about that. If there's anything that we can do for you, don't hesitate at all to reach out to our office. You can get hold of us on the web or call us in Washington, D.C., or our McAllister office or Muskogee office. It is an honor to serve the great state of Oklahoma. It's an honor to be your congressman, and I want to let you know we pray for our state all the time. So God bless you, and of course may God bless the United States of America. We will see you down the road.